Well, hello there, and welcome. Thank you for joining me on this fateful night. If I may, I would like to tell you a little story. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy The Guardian Angel. What would you do if the thing that protects you from harm becomes your worst fear? My mother always told me, as probably any mother did, that when they're not close to us, or when anything goes wrong really, there would always be an angel there, watching over us, protecting us, our own guardian angel. Like any sane kid, I never believed her. Not at the time, at least. Well, you see, it all started a few months ago. I had just finished school and was quickly thrown into the big world out there. It was a weird transition. I got myself a job at a supermarket so I wouldn't be a burden on anyone. I never had problem fitting in, but I always felt like I was the one a bit off. I didn't understand how people could do one thing for the rest of their life. Just put box A close to box B for 8 hours and call it a day. It's a very important job and we all started somewhere. I heard and agree with all of this, but I didn't like it. I couldn't stop thinking how everything changed so fast. To believe that I spent 12 years of my life to do something so monotonous. Although bothersome, the real problem was at home. My mother every night looked at me and said how proud she was. So happy that her little boy was finally working. She was always very supportive. It wasn't easy for the both of us. She always tried to make me feel better, but seeing her tired, beaten up, and forcefully smiling just to survive the day-to-day could only bring me down. On one of those nights, tired of my situation, my job, and listening to the same old, almost pre-made phrases, my tongue slipped, and I said that she may well be, but I wasn't. This little slip from my end was enough to make her jump off the chair and throw herself into a frenzy. "You don't know how lucky you are for getting out of school directly to a job," she yelled out of her lungs. "The only reason you're unhappy is because how short-minded and inconsiderate you are." I don't remember a time where I ran faster to my room without saying a word than on that night. I quickly opened the window to catch some air. I knew words were strong, but I never thought they could so simply suffocate someone. After a few breaths, I started feeling uncomfortable, like the night was getting colder and colder with every grasp of air I took. When I finally decided to go inside, it was when I saw this tall lady looking directly at me, under the streetlight. I don't remember if it was because the light was so bright or her skin so pale, but her face seemed almost unnatural. No eyebrows, eyes wide open directly staring at me, and a long, grinning smile were the only things I could focus on that moment. As if she was joyfully staring at me, almost happy to see me in that state. After a few minutes of our gaze intertwining, I unfroze what seemed to be after hours and went inside. The odd thing was, when I went to lay down, I had nothing on my mind. No anger of the heated scolding of my mother. No sadness of the life I was taking. Only that woman. Like I had her face, her stare, her smile engraved in my mind. In the morning, after a restless night, the mood in the house changed. It was quiet, almost oddly so. As I was preparing breakfast, my mother quietly came to the table and sat down. We sat in front of one another. Silently. There was a lot to be said. A lot of thoughts going to our minds. But if they were there, none of us said a word of them. Never has bread sound so crunchy, or a mug so heavy. Still, shocked and tired from the night before, I got up and made my way to the door to go to work. As I got to the door, she looked at me and said, "It's a tough world out there. I'm just trying to protect you." Me, still tired, trying to make sense of it all, just couldn't restrain myself from asking out loud, If you're just trying to protect me from the world, who will protect me from you? I closed the door with tears and regrets in my eyes. I would like to say that I went back and told her, but I didn't. My feelings of shame and regret were too much for me to bear. During my walk, during my work, I couldn't stop thinking of those words. Who will protect me from you? What did I even mean with that? Regardless, during the day I sent her some messages. I didn't mean to say what I did, and I'm sorry, but she didn't reply. On my way home, I could only think of the ways that our conversation could go. She could snap at me and be angry, cry and show me the regrets of her life, or maybe being silent would be the best response she could give me at the moment. Once I got to the door, I felt weak. I was not ready to face her. Trembling, I closed my eyes and opened the door. The house was as silent as I left. It seemed like no one was there, but I saw her phone on the counter. 2 unread messages. She didn't even saw them. I went to the living room where she usually is, and like expected, I saw her shadow. I swallowed empty and went against my fears. She deserved that much. Mother, When I took a turn, it was not her. It was the woman from yesterday, right there, 8 feet tall, towering over me, staring deeper into my eyes than the night before, with an even bigger smile, like her mouth would go from ear to ear. I could see the blood coming from her twig-like fingers, coming down her hands, as she lifted her slim, elongated arms up with what seemed to look like feathers attached to them. I saw my mother behind her, completely mangled. The only thing I could compare it to at the time was the work of a monster. As her hands slowly rattled in, trying to reach me, she opened her mouth, revealing shark-like teeth, and with a female crackling voice, she whispers, "I will protect you." My eyes opened widely. With fear shivering down my body, I pushed her away and started running. I didn't know where I was going, but I didn't care. I just had to escape, but to no use. Every couple of blocks I would see her after me, running, almost flying, closer and closer, with her eyes and smile wider and wider. I was starting to gasp. My knees were giving in. I tried to hide in an abandoned house that I remember seeing on my way to work. I barricaded myself inside with anything I could get my hands on. I sat down, crying, my body overcoming with the pain, the sadness, the despair in what I have witnessed, of what I have done. Who is she? Or what is she? I stood in the dark, cold room for hours, thinking of what I could have done different. Why me? Why my mother? Why now? Maybe she lost me, but even if my eyes couldn't believe it, my heart could. There she was, with the light of the street on top of her like the night I met her, gasping slowly for air as she looks directly at me through the small hole on the wall, watching, smiling, waiting for the moment where she can protect me from myself. Thank you for listening, and sweet dreams.